This JTV News Update is brought to you by Eureka Medical Clinic, Nagico Insurance, and Flow. Today we're standing outside of the House of Assembly, a place that the government took special care to have prepared today, especially because it's the day when we're having lying in state a former legislator, a man who many call the people's man, the man who loves the territory, Mr. Omar Hodge, lying in state. So today we're going to try to catch a few words from some of the persons whose lives he has touched in some way or the other. It's a sad day because Mr. Hodge, as I said before in my post, was my cousin, a very close friend of the family, especially my mother, very, very close. You know, she took care of him and his other brother when they were growing up as young men in Bargers Bay, you know, and every time we have a little crisis, he always showed up, you know, always happened to be on time, and you know, I respect him for that, and it's a sad day. We have lost a good man, you know, and he'll be long remembered, you know, as the people's man in the 6th district. So, you know, it's kind of touching. But, thank you, sir. You're welcome.
I've known him from the time I was a little girl. He's been my district rep from the time I know myself. He's been a representative for the district, but he's also been a friend of the family and a very close friend with my father, as well as the entire community of Bargers Bay, Bellevue, and Purcell Estate, which is where I was born and raised. So he is somebody who has always been there. He's the people's man, the name given to him. It was not by chance. It's simply because he is everybody's person. You can stop him at any time. You have a question, a problem, and he endeavored to ensure that he assisted in any way which he could assist you with. And for that, he'll be greatly missed. I have tons of memories with him personally, which I don't necessarily have to go in now, but I know he will be dearly missed. His family, my heart go out to them because it's a difficult time. It was over the holiday season, and it's always a difficult time to lose a loved one, but especially during the holiday season, and especially after all we've been through with the hurricane. So we're trying our best to all be strong for them, and particularly the community on a whole, because he will be greatly missed, not just by the people in his district or his family, but I think by the entire BVI community, residents and visitors alike, who would have heard about him or may have come in contact with him over the 32 years which he served in the legislature, but even prior to that, and even after he stopped serving in the legislature because of who he was as a person. So it's a sad occasion, but I think we remember him for the significant contribution that he made to the Virgin Islands community, and I think his legacy will live on, and it will be in the history books in years to come. Thank you.
Brother Holmes was, as we call him, the people's man, and he spent 30-some odd years of his life working for the people of the territory. So it's a sad day today that we're remembering him, but he's made his contribution to humanity and to the BVI. We are proud of him, proud of people like these who have basically what we call trailblazers, have made a way for us, and we take example from him and want to continue doing good for the country and for people. So he's one of my mentors. I spent a lot of time with him from very young, even before I was in politics in Hunting Scott, where he and my other mentor, Liston Smith, were close friends. So we miss him very much. I spent a fair amount of time with him just before his passing. So we mourn his loss. To his family, I know they're very close to him, so we want to encourage him to keep on. Without any regrets, as he's made his contribution to life in a major way. So today we are mourning that loss.
A true patriot. As he said, he was a man of the people. The people's man. Fought a very good fight. So rest in peace.
Mr. Hodge is one of the longest serving members of the House of Assembly in the Virgin Islands. Served several positions, as you would know. So it's it's only fitting that as a current member of the House of Assembly that we come and offer respects to the family, first of all, his wife and his children, and obviously on behalf of the community, as an at-large member, offering my sympathy to them for his 32 years of dedicated service to the people of the Virgin Islands, in particular to the people of the 6th District. So today is a historical day because I think Mr. Hodge will also go down as one of perhaps the second longest serving member after Mr. O'Neill. And I'm not sure that some of us have the stamina to endure that kind of tenure, but it is one that when you look back and reflect on, you would say they were committed and dedicated servants of the BVI. So I'm proud to be here this morning to be a part of the homegoing celebrations.
It's a sad moment for the Virgin Islands and for the democratic process and the politics of the Virgin Islands. You're going to hear tomorrow many things that Honorable Hodge would have done in its various capacities. But the greatest virtue of Omar, as I call him, is love for people. And he epitomized that you shouldn't get into politics because you want a career boost. You shouldn't get into it because you want to feel good about yourself. You must get into it because you love people. And there's nobody across the Virgin Islands who knew Omar that didn't know that he loved and cared for people. When you had a problem, regardless of which minister it fell under, the first person you would look for is Omar Hodge, because you know he would take the time to listen to you and he would do whatever he can. Sometimes he uses some unconventional methods to get the attention of the persons that he needs to get the attention of, but it's all in love for the people. And with everything else that he has done in agriculture, his stint as the Deputy Chief Minister, and the 32 years that he has served, the one lesson I learned from Omar Hodge, which is the greatest lesson for a politician, is you must love people. You must love the people who have called you to serve them, and you must do your best at all times to make life better for them. And that is Omar Hodge in a nutshell. It's a great loss for the territory of the Virgin Islands.
And your words to his family this time?
I can't replace, or there's nothing that anyone can do to replace the loss that they've had. But I think they must take comfort in the fact that they had a family member who touched the lives of so many persons in the territory. Somebody who loved the people, as I said, and the people loved him back. That gave him the name, the People's Man. And as sad as they may be today, they should be proud that they had somebody of this level that shared a life with them.
It's quite touching, you know. It always is when a member passes. And when you reflect on the number of things, when you reflect on the service, and especially with this gentleman, I mean, 32 years is not 2 days. And it was non-stop. That's another important point. And the whole community will bear me out to say he was indeed the people's man. And this is how he became to be known, and we all feel it. Honorable Omar Hodge is in the hearts of and the minds of Virgin Islanders and everyone with whom he came in contact, because it wasn't just us, and it wasn't just on Tortola. It was all the sister islands. It was everywhere. You know, one of the things that I mentioned in my tribute is his insistence that we had to plant food. You must be able to feed yourself. You know, food is important. You know, he was a stickler for agriculture and a number of other things. They are all listed. I'm sure you heard some of them. But that's who he was, and he never changed. You know, he went down the road the same person you knew him as a young person. That's who he was to the end.
Okay. And your word to his family at this time?
Well, as you know, it's a sad moment for them. some of them are in tears as they look back, I'm sure. Because, first of all, I don't think they expected it, so that came as a bit of a surprise. But they'll be comforted by what he stood for, by who he was, by the purpose he has fulfilled. And I'm sure that it is agreed that he fulfilled his purpose here on earth. And so that when you lose a loved one, you can't predict how it will be from moment to moment. In one moment, you smile. In the next moment, you can be in tears. That's normal. I've experienced it myself.
Needless to say, it is a sad moment. Totally unexpected. I didn't think that Honorable Hodge would have ended up a casualty of this whole hurricane season. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. I've worked with Mr. Hodge. He was my deputy speaker. And it was a pleasure working with him. He was an outspoken person, always saying what he believed. He was a man of great conviction, and I really enjoyed working with him. And it's a sad moment for us and for the country to see him depart in this way. I'm really saddened by it, but what can we say? Life goes on. And
Your words to the family?
Well, I would just like to express my sympathy and that of my husband and family to the family of the late Omar Hodge. I have known him for a very long time, and he was an outstanding representative. I lived in the district he represented, and I have very good fond memories of him.
People's man. I think that's quite fitting of him. We have always referred to him as a people's man. I served with him since 1999, consistently. We served together in the front bench in his last term in office. He was a Minister for Natural Resources and Labor, and I was a Minister for Communications and Works. He was a remarkable fellow. He was always jovial. He never had a dull moment, and if you had one, he made sure that he lightened it up. And he was instrumental in some substantial legislation that was passed in the House of Assembly. He himself brought some. As everyone would know, the labor code, the one that we use right now, was brought by him. And in his former years as a minister of natural resources and labor, he was instrumental in bringing forward land reform, especially the Anegada lands. We always talk about the Rennick Report, something that brought relief to the people of Anegada, something that was hanging around for years and unresolved. And even to this day, there are issues in that area of land in Anegada and in Tortola as well. But I don't think that there is a soul in Tortola during the time that Omar Hodge served that hasn't been touched by him. He wasn't just for his district, he was for everyone. Sometimes he'll be caught interfering in your affairs in your district. That's how concerned he was. He would bring forward issues about your own constituents. So he was quite informed, quite helpful. He's going to be missed by the entire territory. He had one term and going into his second term to wind down, but he certainly didn't. He was still around, and he's going to be missed.
Okay. Your words to his family at this time?
I want to let them know that each and every one of the members of the House of Assembly, those who are currently sitting and those who have passed, passed mean they're no longer sitting, we're family, and we're there for them. And our condolence, our deepest condolence go out to them, his wife, his last son, and the two kids before them. We're here for them.
Let me extend my condolences to his family, and I would venture to say the people of the territory, because he has been a champion for the people for many years. I was privileged to work with him from 1995, and during that time I think we championed a lot of cause together. So I have nothing but high praises for him.
Okay. What is one of your fondest memories of Mr. Hodge?
In legislation, I didn't have the opportunity when he was a minister to work with him. because under our system only minister sponsor legislation. But during the time, I can refer to him as a strong advocate for the people, especially those persons that come in to live among us. He fight their cause to see that they were well represented, and to make sure that a future for them was secure in the Virgin Islands.
My sentiment as the youngest elected member to this House of Assembly, as a young person in this community, Honorable Omar Hodge was always one of my favorite politicians in terms of his charisma, in terms of his dedication to the people. Learning of his passing is I think, touched the entire nation, because what he stood for was people. We might not always agree with the way in which he did things, but I think his life and his dedication to this country for some 40 plus years must be commended. We must always respect and remember him and his legacy that he created to his family, his wife and his children, his son Jeremy, just for their time of sharing him with us, and the contribution that he has made to this territory, the BVI in the Caribbean, has just been tremendous. So on this day, I am here to, on behalf of the people of the 2nd District, pay my respects and let him know that I will continue to do my best to serve in the way that he did.
This is a day that you hope will never come, but as I stated, many people, Omar Hodge, Honorable Omar Hodge, the late Honorable Omar Hodge, now live a full life. He'll always be remembered for fighting with passion for what he believed in, and he was a voice for those who, the voiceless, and brought hope to those who felt a sense of hopelessness. He also fought for the rights of persons who lived their life here in the Virgin Islands for years and were not able to get their status or their rights. He championed the cause for a lot of persons that we call the little man, that people sometimes ignore. And I was saying to just the other day too on the radio that one of the things I like about Honorable Hodge is he never judge you based on gossip. And especially when you live in small territories like the BVI, in any small territory, usually people tend to brand you with what they hear about you. Honorable Hodge was not that kind of guy. He's the kind of gentleman that would test you, prove you for himself, and give you the benefit of the doubt. He was the kind of gentleman that when he didn't agree with certain things that you were doing or saying, he would tell you, and you knew where he stand on every topic, and what you saw was what you got. He championed the cause to help the HL Stout and all those who were bringing the college on stream. And when the history of the college is written once, is written accurately, it must include Honorable Omar Hodge. So every student that graduates from HLSCC will be seeing the face of Honorable Omar Wallace Hodge. He actually housed the college when it started in 1991 in his own building when they couldn't find somewhere to go and couldn't afford a rent. So a lot of times we forget small things that end up making us big and making us great. But Honorable Hodge was one of those guys that did small things that had large effects. He also championed a cause for the farming and fishing to become industries. And we have to make sure that we continue this to make his legacy more crystallized. Because I'm one of those who fondly feel that we can do these two areas into great industries once we do them in modern day farm and help our people in a significant manner financially and otherwise. I want to thank his family, his wife Miriam. I want to thank his children, his daughter and his son, Debbie and Jeremy. I want to send deepest sympathies to all of them, and also to his son Myrex. I want to say deepest sympathy to all of them. I know that all of them did all they could to take care of Honorable Hodge. He took care of the country, and I'm glad that the country is taking care of him now that he is going to be buried with a state funeral. He deserves it. A lot of time in politics, people only remember the areas where you might have had a misstep or what they viewed as a misstep, because a lot of it is dealing with perception. But Honorable Hodge did more great for this territory than most persons that enter the field of politics. And one of the things we have to understand is that Honorable Hodge was in politics for 32 consecutive years. That means he went through 8 general elections and won 8 general elections consecutively. Whatever era you're in, that's something great. He had to be doing something right for the people of the 6th district for which he was represented. And he was a bridge from the older politicians into the modern politicians, a bridge that he created that allowed persons like myself to pass over those thresholds. So I thank him for also being a mentor in a lot of ways. And he was a man that believed in love. He said that only love knows love. So we want to make sure that we continue the love that he was championing for the Virgin Islands. He would deeply miss him. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
From the bottom of my heart, on my own behalf, on behalf of my husband and our families, I would really like to extend very deep and sincere condolences to the family of the late Honorable Omar Wallace Hodge. I want to thank them for giving us an opportunity to be part of his life, especially in his final weeks. History will be kind to Omar Wallace Hodge. He was a man who gave his life 32 years of 75 in service of this country. And he leaves a very good legacy. In a time when it was not popular to do so, he stood up and he championed the rights of all. And he believed very, very firmly in what he stood for. And he's made an indelible contribution in this country. He was a man who believed in love, he believed in kindness, he believed in justice, and very importantly, he believed in the importance of government and in the power of the government to do good. He believed that government should do good. And in the conversations that I personally was privileged to have with him, especially after Hurricane Irma, so much of that came true. May God bless his soul, and thank you very much. Thanks.
Omar was a community-minded person, so whether it was Rotary, Lions, Excelsior, any one of the clubs that tried to serve our community, he was always there, willing to help, and in any way that he could. You just had to call on him, because remember, he was, well, they call him the people's man. So he was always around, especially in the Postal area that he was very instrumental in building. I remember him when I was a child, because I grew up in Postal myself, when they used to call it Plywood City. And he took it from Plywood City and basically made it what it is today, which is a very, even though dense village, very, very, very proper. And he did his best. And you have to take your hat off to him, because he wasn't a person that decided, well, you're a BV Islander or you're this, you're that. He believed that people who build communities, no matter where you're from, you're here in a community and you're a part of that community, and the community is built by the person within it. So and that's how he reached out to people, and that's why he was so loved. So we lost a great man, but he did his best, and he did his time, and he's reached the end of his time. So I wish his family all the best as they grieve, but I always remember that he did his best for this community, and he was very instrumental in the positive development of what happened in this territory in more ways than one. So you should be proud. You should be proud of what accomplishments the BVI has achieved through his efforts.
So today we see while flags are being flown at half-mast, it's because of the contribution the late Honorable Omar Wallace Hodge has made to this territory. And here I want to say, on behalf of the management and staff of JTV Graphics, we extend our heartfelt condolences to the family of the late Omar Wallace Hodge. With this JTV News Update, I'm Kathy Richards.